Let's start. So, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are watching us from. So, welcome to the fourth session of the Global Cybersecurity Forum. My name is Oscar Avila. I am the current president of the ISOC Cybersecurity SIG, and I'm delighted to kick off this session. Why national cybersecurity awareness programs often fail. So I would like to make a couple of announcements. Please keep your mic off during the session and use the chat feature to formulate your questions and comments. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. At least we will have 15 minutes for questions. And I am delighted to introduce Dr. Enrico Calandro. He's our moderator today. Enrico is the co-director of the Cybersecurity Capacity Center of the Southern Africa and member of the advisory board of the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise. Enrico, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Oscar. And hi, everyone. So I'm delightful, actually, of moderating this panel. And I think it's going to be a very interesting one because, as you probably are all aware, October is the month of cyber awareness all over the world. So I think that the discussion is really pertinent to this period of the year. And we have with us a great speaker and a colleague from the Global Cybersecurity Capacity Center at the Oxford University. Her name is Dr. Eva Nagyfejeo. And Eva is a research fellow at this Global Center at the University of Oxford, where she supports the delivery of global cybersecurity capacity building expertise by promoting the center's cyber maturity model for nations, which is a methodology that she's going to describe as well, and through these country reviews. And by the end of last year, 2019, she participated in 9 country reviews around the world. So her research is actually based on field work where Eva has really, engaged with a number of stakeholders. She met them in person and she has collected the data in person. So I think it would be great also if Eva maybe can share that experience because it's really valuable. And currently she's leading the CMM revision project. The research she's going to present, as Oscar said, the title is Why Do National Cybersecurity Awareness Programs Often Fail? So not always, but often, unfortunately, they fail. We will try to understand why, and it's based on 8 cyber maturity assessments across 3 continents. So it's really a global kind of study. The data was collected between 2017 and 2018. And as I said, Eva was part of a number of these CMM reviews. So she's going really to provide us that kind of academic expertise, but also, direct experience in conducting this kind of studies. So yeah, without any further ado, Eva, the microphone is yours, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrico and Oscar, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. And I'm very honored to be here with you. And I'm very happy to present you the paper that Professor Bazi von Zoms and I wrote together, focusing on why do national cybersecurity awareness raising programs often fail. To give you a little background behind the idea of the paper, first I would like to explain to you the work of the Cyber Capacity Center. So the center was launched in 2014 with the aim of developing a cyber maturity model to assess the country's cybersecurity capacity And the research team at the time worked together with strategic and implementation partners. As you can see on the slide, we have a number of cyber capacity building partners who supported the development of the cyber maturity model, and also supporting the development of the CMM across the different regions of the world, such as the World Bank, the OAS, the ITU, the UK Foreign Office. And we have also working together with the Oceania Cybersecurity Center in Australia, and also the recently launched Cyber Capacity Center in South Africa. This map shows you that in the past 5 years, the Cyber Capacity Center was quite busy, and with the support of implementation partners, this project reached over 100 national cybersecurity across the different regions of the world. So if anybody would like to learn more about the center and the model, I would like to encourage you to please visit the website, our new website, gcscc.ox.ac.uk. And since in the past 5 years, we collected a lot of data from CMN reviews. The main question that drove the paper was, can we identify main challenges, emerging themes, when countries have to develop a national awareness raising programs? To what extent these challenges are similar? To what extent do they differ from each other? And when we go to the country and deploy the cyber maturity model, we focus on 5 main areas, 5 main dimensions. One of the dimensions focuses on cybersecurity awareness raising programs, also cybersecurity education and training and skills. And within the D3, the cybersecurity awareness raising programs that we looked more deeply into in the paper. So here I would like to give you a very short snapshot of the model. I'm not going to go very much into detail, but each dimension consists of factors. Each factor consists of aspects and indicators, a set of indicators that spread across 5 stages of maturity from startup to dynamic. And here you can see the indicators that we used when asking questions with regards regarding the national awareness raising program in the country. So we asked from the cyber experts and the different stakeholders when we deployed the CMM with the research team with regards to whether the country has a national program for cybersecurity awareness raising, whether they have a designated organization that supervises these programs, to what extent they consulted with different stakeholders when developing the program. Do they have awareness raising courses, seminars, online resources available? Who are the owners of these campaigns? Do they cooperate together or not? So these are the indicators that we use and frame into questions when we do the focus group discussions. So we picked 8 countries from 3 continents for the data analysis. And the reason behind picking these 8 countries were their geographical location. They located at 3 different continents, and we were very interested to see whether there are similar patterns, similar challenges that these countries have to face when they develop an awareness raising program. So we picked 4 countries from Europe, Lithuania and Cyprus. There are 2 EU countries, and 2 from the Western Balkans, North Macedonia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. I also had the opportunity to be part of the research team deploying the CMM in these 2 countries. Also, we picked 2 countries in the ocean region, Samoa and country B, and 2 countries in Africa, Gambia and country A. The reason that the 2 countries are not referenced is because their review reports, CMM reports, haven't been published. Because of that, we're not going to mention their names. The dates indicate that the dates indicates when the CMM reports of these countries were published. And we try to analyze the data collected during the CMM reviews and also from the CMM reports at the time of the assessment. And the main conclusion and observations that we made is that these cybersecurity awareness raising programs in these countries are often led by different owners who do not have the adequate resources in place to implement these campaigns, and they not really coordinate within each other, therefore creating a fragmentation in the national awareness raising program in the countries. So despite the differences in geographical locations, interestingly, these countries still face similar challenges, similar issues with regards to national awareness raising programs. And we try to divide the challenges into 7 main areas of concern. The first is that at the time of the assessment, most of the countries do not have a cybersecurity strategy in place. And having a cybersecurity strategy indicate that the government is really supporting existing programs. So because there were no strategy, there was not enough government support for the available awareness raising programs. Also in the published CMM reports in Lithuania, North Macedonia, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Samoa, they indicated that these awareness raising campaigns that are available in these countries are driven by different stakeholders, but they were still not linked to the country's efforts to a national cybersecurity strategy if there was a security strategy in place at the time. Also, none of these countries at the time of the assessment, 2017 and 2018, had an assigned body, whether it's a ministry or an agency in place who would supervise and implement the awareness raising program in the country at the national level. Having a body and organization in place who would coordinate would help to avoid duplication and overlaps among the existing programs. Also, we observed that there were not enough coordination between the different role players active in the cybersecurity awareness raising programs in the country. So based on our experience, when we asked questions from different stakeholder groups from the focus group discussion, some of them were not even aware of what other awareness raising programs are available in these given countries. Also, none of these countries at the time of the assessment had a national cybersecurity awareness portal in place that would act as a single point of disseminate and promote cybersecurity maturity, cybersecurity awareness related materials and resources to the public. And also the existing programs did not really cover the full spectrum of the role players who were involved in these programs, whether they included the government or the private sector, universities and schools and civil societies. So these were very interesting observations being made. And of course, it's also important to talk about a bit of the differences as well, because there were also cultural differences with regards to how these countries and the public dealt with cybersecurity issues. So, for instance, in Africa countries, like the countries I've had the opportunity to do the assessment, they have a culture towards forgiveness. And if, for instance, a young girl would become a victim of cyberbullying, they would rather forgive their offenders than to report it to the police, for instance. So there are also cultural issues that needs to be taken into consideration in certain areas and regions and countries when developing an awareness raising programs. So to make sure that to help to change the mindset and also to promote the reporting channels that are available for victims of cyber abuse and cyberbullying or cyber fraud, for instance. And also there are the issues regarding the language barriers as well, as most of the countries in South America, in Asia, and in the Oceania region as well, if the awareness raising materials are available in English, and English is not the primary language of the population, especially in African countries, then it's very difficult to promote cybersecurity awareness raising among the population. So these are also other issues that needs to be taken into consideration when developing awareness raising programs as well. And the other things that were mentioned by participants during the focus group discussions is the lack of political leadership with regards to cybersecurity. And another suggestion to remedy this problem could be to maybe provide workshops to the parliamentarians to raise awareness of the cybersecurity issues. Also, another suggestion could be in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic to provide online, well-designed online materials to the parliamentarians that they are obliged to take. So if the country doesn't have the driving force at the top level to make cybersecurity a priority and promote awareness on cybersecurity, it's very difficult to build this resilience in the society to help and establish responsible behavior online. And we came up with a high-level model, as you can see on the slide, that has 4 levels, and with some general guidelines for the country to develop an national awareness raising program. And we always try to emphasize the need to have an assigned coordinating body, and also emphasize the need for a multi-stakeholder approach. So when the government is developing a program, we would always like to emphasize the need to involve different stakeholders, the private sector, the civil society, the international partners, and if applicable, also the community leaders. The community leaders were put there because based on my experience going to countries in the Oceania region, also in the African countries, it was very interesting to see the crucial role that community leaders and also religious leaders play in society. So, for instance, in Samoa, I think they call the village chiefs the Matai. They have a very important role to shape the way the community thinks about certain issues. Also, in my experience when we did an assessment in an African country, and we asked the stakeholders, so whether they think that the church could play a role in raising awareness, cybersecurity awareness raising among the public, and they said definitely that would be great, and it was a very interesting experience that and made me think as well the importance to involve them in countries where the community leaders and in those religious countries where they have an important role to influence communities, and maybe the local communities will listen to them more than other members of the public, for instance. And we came up with some recommendations for the country to develop an awareness raising program. So the first would be to develop cybersecurity strategy. In case they don't have a cybersecurity strategy in place, they could still come up with a coordinated awareness raising program that would be later linked back to the cybersecurity strategy and as an action plan. And it's very important, as stated before, to involve different stakeholders, the private sector, civil society, and international stakeholders, or at least listen to them, because they can bring a lot of expertise to the development of the program, and maybe share experiences and challenges that neighboring countries had when implementing awareness raising programs. The next suggestion for us for the country would be to appoint an agency, as an organization, whether it's a ministry or an agency to create, or at least coordinate and supervise the existing awareness raising programs in order to make sure that the owners of the campaigns have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities in order to avoid duplication, and also to make sure that the resources are going into and allocated into the right campaigns. Also, we suggested to ensure that the assigned body has sufficient authority and resources to implement this and coordinate among the existing programs. Also, we suggested to create a national awareness raising portal, which would act as a single point of contact to disseminate materials, seminars to the public, to everyone. Would be better if it would be in the local language as well, not just English. And of course, we shouldn't forget about the program review processes in order to make sure to what extent the programs are effective, if there is anything lacking. Also take into consideration the emerging threats that should be reviewed time to time and inform strategy decision making and feedback the strategy and awareness raising programs. So it would be a periodic review process. So these are our general guidelines for the country to develop a coordinated cybersecurity awareness raising program. And the role of the international stakeholders cannot be emphasized enough. It's just mentioning a few, but many international actors have already been actively involved in and engaging in cyber capacity building activities around the world, such as Get Safe Online, OAS, ITU, the World Bank, ASEAN, OSCE with the CBM measures. So just to mention a few. So they have a very important role, and they could also advise governments, work with other partners, and also they could also save some time spending on developing an awareness raising program, because they can share their experience and expertise as well. Last year, at the Addis Ababa, during the GFC annual meeting, the Civil portal was launched, which is globally owned, and it serves as a one-stop knowledge hub, providing information on cyber capacity building projects, tools, and publications. So if anyone of you is interested, learn more about the cyber capacity building projects and materials, I would encourage you to please check out these websites. And to as a conclusion, we concluded that in the paper that the fundamental challenges with regards to national cybersecurity awareness raising remains the same, regardless of the geographical differences between the countries. So no country is immune to cyber risk, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel with regards to existing frameworks, but countries need a plan, and they need a coordinated approach to national awareness raising programs, and they need to put forward a plan to help individuals to become more confident to control their activities online, especially nowadays as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are required to work from home and shift to remote work, and during these challenging times, and digital education is rising, and also it gives us more vulnerability to the cyber criminals and cyber attacks directed at staff and different sectors, including academic students, schools, and become victims of email scams at large. So I think it's even more important nowadays for governments to have a priority on cybersecurity awareness raising programs. So that would be my presentation, and thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and the questions.
Thank you very much, Eva, for this really interesting presentation, and for sharing with us this very informative research. So before giving the floor to the audience, there are a number of points that I would like to discuss with you that triggered my interest in these issues. So I think one of the main points that you raised is on this lack of coordination, right? And the fact that there is a need of having a body or an entity at the government level that somehow coordinates a good cyber awareness program. But at the same time, you also said that one of the main problems actually of the fact that there isn't a coordination body is that probably there is lack of political leadership. Broadly on cybersecurity, and then also specifically on cyber awareness. So, I'm wondering also, maybe one of the reasons for this lack of political leadership is that a number of members of parliament or other policymakers actually do not have enough knowledge of cybersecurity in the country and do not understand how to prioritize on that, how to budget on cybersecurity, and how to develop a strategy, and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering, what do you think of the Cyber Maturity Model for Nations report to be used as an awareness tool for policymakers to really, build their capacity, so that then can they develop this kind of political leadership that would somehow coordinate a proper cyber awareness program? So is the CMM an awareness tool for policymakers at the national level? What do you think about that, based on your experience?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Enrico. This is a very relevant question, and indeed, the CMM reports that we write together, it's also, as you mentioned very well, it's a tool for the decision makers to raise awareness of the cybersecurity issues. We actually, when we conduct CMM review in the country, when we go there with the research team in person, we ask for recommendations as well from the stakeholders, what they think is lacking in the country, and providing their expertise and knowledge. While we deploy the CMM, we have a better understanding of the gaps in cyber security capacity in the country, whether it's awareness raising, whether it's the legal frameworks, whether it's technology, strategy problems, cultural issues as well. So when we deliver the CMM reports in consultation with the ministry in charge, we always provide recommendations. What are the next steps to reach the next stages of maturity? And it's also true for the awareness raising program. So the CMM report is, in a way, is an awareness raising tool. And we really hope that the CMM reports could help to raise awareness within the government. And I think once we going to conduct second CMM reviews, now we had the second one in Uganda recently, and then we had another second CMM review in Kosovo as well. We will see the developments in the past 4 years, where the country is, how the country put forward, or to what extent they agreed on the recommendations. So we provide some guidelines what to do, but it's always up to the country to decide, and the decision makers, how they wanna move forward to reach the next stage of maturity.
Thank you very much, Eva. I see in the chat a few questions. So the first one is from Miguel Garces. I don't know if Miguel, would you like to ask the question yourself? If you can unmute yourself, or otherwise I can ask that on your behalf. Miguel? Okay, so it's a very interesting question. He's asking if have you come across any data suggesting that cyber criminals are targeting and or using countries with less mature cyber maturity? Is there enough evidence on that? I think it's a very interesting question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I don't think I came across data on this, but would be very interested to look at, and maybe if there is any statistics available, I think it would be a very good research paper actually to write on. And I mean, if the country has less capacity in terms of cybersecurity maturity, we would assume that they are more vulnerable. But it would be very interesting to see through data and look at it more closely. But thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very interesting one, and yeah, it is a factor. Yes. Sorry, there is another question from Irene Omeri. Irene, would you like to ask your question yourself, or should I ask on your behalf? Maybe I can ask this question as well. Eva, from the research that you have done, which countries in the Global South have successfully implemented national cybersecurity awareness programs? Is there any country that you can recall where you have seen an example of a successful cyber awareness program, especially in the Global South?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I can mostly talk about the countries, the nine countries that I've participated in. So based on the 9 countries and these countries that I picked and presented, there were always some little fragmentation in the system. So there was always lack of coordination, not enough resources. So I don't think I've seen a successfully implemented national cybersecurity awareness raising program based on my experience, but I would be happy to look into that and come back to you with an answer later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Exactly, and I think that one of the main problems is this lack of coordination. So most probably there are a number of initiatives in the Global South to raise awareness, but they're not properly coordinated. So from a cyber maturity perspective, that's considered as a weakness or a lower stage of maturity. but that doesn't mean that there aren't actually very valuable cyber awareness programs nationally that maybe are conducted by civil society organizations or by universities, but they're not coordinated. So that's something that we need to take into account. Another interesting question from Gabriel Ninda. I don't know if Gabriel would like to ask the question yourself, or I can do it on your behalf. Okay, I can ask this as well. So from the research conducted, have you encountered countries in the global south that had awareness materials in local languages? This is something that you have mentioned.
Yeah.
So have you found material in the local languages?
Not that I'm aware of, or other countries I've participated in, but I think, or I hope that there are now some countries working on developing awareness raising materials, and I'm sure that the international stakeholders working together with governments, and I understand that this could be quite time consuming as well, because to translate materials as well. I remember, I think in Brazil that I've been to, and we have published the CMI report recently. They have cyber maturity portals, which was not included in this paper, but they have materials in Portuguese. But in the countries that in the paper, I'm not aware of awareness raising materials in the local language, but I will look into it again and come back to you with a more specific answer. It's a very good question.
Yeah, thank you. So I've seen that actually Caroline from the Global Cybersecurity Capacity Center, she put in the chat a link to a campaign in Myanmar, which was translated in the local language. And also there is also another toolkit. So maybe you can have a look at that study. And there is also a South African one, which is translated in a couple of local languages. So the link, both links are in the chat. And I see another question, a very quick one from BK. Is Asia Pacific region included in the research?
Asia Pacific region. No, not at the moment, but because mostly I try to take advantage of the opportunity that I've been participating in these countries, except the two, and we really try to look at differences in geographical location, and but yeah, it would be great to look at into those countries as well. I think, as Caroline mentioned, there was a CMM review in Myanmar, and we hope that in the future there might be CMM reviews conducted in that region as well, so we can deliver more research and share it with the public, our findings.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. I see Richard Hill has got his hand up. So Richard, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, thank you very much, both for the presentation, but mostly for the substantive work. I think this is really excellent, and it clearly is what's needed and hopefully will help. I wanted to comment on what you said, Enrico, about the parliamentarians not knowing much about this. I can confirm that in Switzerland. We've had various laws passed, which we, ISOC Switzerland, think are unfortunate. And a couple of our members actually have taken the time to talk to parliamentarians. There are 4 or 5 who actually understand the issues, but they're completely swamped by people who have no understanding, and they get emotional, you know, like, oh, we have to protect the children, so we have to block websites and stuff like that. Switzerland may be the worst case because the parliament is part-timers, and they don't really have expert staff to help them, but I suspect that other countries are also pretty bad. And then I wanted to make another comment, which goes rather to the content of the awareness. And there, I think really it's very good if you can go back to the 2016 ISOC study, which I find excellent, which points out these market failures. I mentioned on the chat the asymmetry of information, but the other one is externalities. People don't realize that my lack of security may not be a problem for me, but it may well be a problem for you. For example, the credit card companies that don't protect enough, well, they don't lose any money once the credit cards get stolen, but you do. And that's very well documented in that report. So I think that report would be a good basis to develop some of the content of the awareness building. But again, very well done, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard, for your intervention, and also for sharing with us that report that I've seen you place in the chat. So if anybody would like to have a look at that, especially on the content side of this cyber awareness campaign, please refer to that. We have a number of questions, so thank you. It means that it's a very engaging kind of panel. So from Edward Millington, is asking if there is any relationship in the CMM in the national strategy, if the national strategy is linked to the National Digital Transformation Program in the CMM. Is there any dimension that is investigating the relationship between these two programs?
Thank you for the question. I'm just thinking now. At the moment, I don't think we have specific indicators within this aspect, but actually it's a really good point. And actually at the moment we're working on revising the CMM. So any suggestion is also welcome. We're very welcome. Any feedback and comments how we could improve the CMM as well. That's we've been already doing extensive consultation in the past year, and we're hoping to publish by the end of this year. So this is a really good point, and I'm gonna take a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. But probably cybersecurity can somehow seen as an extension of a digital transformation, of a broader digital transformation program. So it's a very good point. Sophia Hunter is asking, what would you say are the main benefits of having a national cybersecurity awareness portal? I think it's also a very interesting question. What are the benefits then of this portal? We see so many portals.
Yeah, I think having a portal. Now I'm thinking about Brazil. It was I think based on my experience in the countries I've been to, I had the opportunity. I think it was only Brazil which had an awareness raising portal in place in Portuguese at the time of the assessment I've been part of 2018. And because in the paper at the time of the assessment, none of these countries had. And I think the benefit of having a portal would be, anybody who is interested, whether it's coming from private sector, academia, school children, women, they can just have this portal provided by the government, and they can just look at all the materials related to cybersecurity, seminars, courses, and if they want to educate their children, they could be cyber books for children, online programs, like also parenting controls, like how to control your kids' behavior online, what to do as a parent, because we need to raise more awareness of it, and there is a generation growing up who is very digital, and then there is the older generation who are just getting more involved in this, and they need to learn, and these are new challenges, and they need to adapt to these digital challenges and digital education, and make their children aware of the harms online, not just the benefits and the convenience that we come from the internet and using social media, and also the talking about the disinformation issue programs and campaigns as well, and to make them become a responsible adult who can decide what information is truthful, what information is trusted, and what they can see it with a critical eye and see, okay, this, and they have this resiliency in their mindset. So it's a long-term goal. It's not going to happen from one day to the other. but I think the government could be a very important driving force. So if they recognize it and work together with all the partners, listen to all the different stakeholders and work together hand in hand, I think it's a very good investment in the long run.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an excellent point, and probably also the value added of a national portal is that actually they could be translated in different local languages, right? That, as we have seen, we shared the link to the Cyber portal where you can find a number of these guidelines and toolkits, but of course they're all in English. So we need somehow to bridge that kind of linguistic barrier, and probably national portals are an effective way of doing that. There is also, so just to go back to the comment on the research in Asia, that there is need probably then to do a little bit more of this research also in Asia, for instance, India, Pakistan, but also Bangladesh and other countries. Is there any plan of covering also that region on the CMM?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, so there was a CMM report, I'm not sure if it's published, but Myanmar and Bangladesh, we've been to Bangladesh research team. And I think there are discussions to, and Sri Lanka as well. And there are discussions, I think, to do CMM reviews, hopefully in India in the next years. But yeah, I can ask my colleagues and provide more information if anybody is interested to learn about it. But yeah, we're really hoping to cover that region as well in the next years, and hopefully to do second assessment as well to see how the country progressed in the past 3-4 years.
Thank you. Maybe we can also place the link with all the CMM reviews conducted here in the chat, so that people can just read them and see all countries that have been covered so far. And as Eva was saying, unfortunately, not all reports are publicly available online because some governments do not want to share the report at the end. So in that case, unfortunately, it's not possible to share that. But on the map, you will see actually where the study was conducted. We still have a few minutes, so I actually have another question for you, Eva. Specifically on what I found very interesting is also, as you said, that you have observed some cultural differences, right, across these countries on this cyber awareness program, and I think that's also the real value, right, of doing field research on this kind of topics. So I'm just wondering, how would you develop then this research further to try to highlight these geographical differences across countries? Do you think that there is a need of expanding your methodology? What would you recommend?
Oh, thank you very much for this question. I think, I think if anybody, I hope they got some inspiration. I think there's still more could be done in terms of research. I would be, for instance, very interested to learn more about how the community leaders or religious leaders could be involved in cyber capacity building in those countries where they have an important role. It would be also good to learn more about the culture, the mindset, how the people, the users approach and think about cybersecurity issues, how they would react if they would become victims of cyber bullying, cyber abuse as well, and how this could be more integrated into awareness raising program, how these cultural issues or mindset issues could be resolved in the long run. I assume it would be go back to education and training their mindset from primary school and make them aware of the dangers out there, not just the good things about internet. So from primary school and make them more responsible and resilient. So yeah, I think awareness raising programs and cyber education would go hand in hand. And And yeah, I think the cyber education side could be also explored. So yeah, I just mentioned a few examples, but of course there are also more areas to look at, and I hope this will help others to become more interested and do some research in this area.
That's a very good invite, and I think there are many opportunities actually of conducting research in this area, especially to understand the local realities and the local context of these cyber awareness campaigns and the effectiveness. So yeah, I would invite the participants those that are interested in this. Maybe they can discuss that with you as well as a follow-up, or also with me if we might find opportunities to do research in this topic. Now, to go at another level, so we've discussed, the local reality, try to understand the local differences and national differences, and you mentioned in your presentation also the role of international partners. We have seen that there are actually a number of stakeholders involved in these efforts. So at an international level, they play an important role. You mentioned the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, which is trying to coordinate a number of cyber capacity activities globally. And you also place the regional organizations in the between the international actors that are involved in cyber awareness campaign. So do you see any specific role, especially in the maybe in the relationship with the national governments? How should they approach, how can they have this kind of role of coordinating these activities globally while working nationally, in order to understand the national differences and the peculiarity at the national level?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks very much, Enrico. I think what role international stakeholders could play, I think they have a very important supporting role for the governments and to help them assist in their awareness raising, to develop an awareness raising program. And that's what we also trying to do when we deploy the CMM and work with the strategic and implementation partners in the country with the CMM to support the government to realize what are the gaps that's missing in the country in the cybersecurity maturity, where needs investment, whether it's the legislation, whether it's the strategy, whether it's the education part, whether it's the technological aspects of the cybersecurity at the organizational level. So I think these CMM it's more like a facilitated self-help. It's a self-assessment for the country, and working together with the international stakeholders, I think they could be a complementary, act as a complementary support for the government. And I think it's important to involve them and listen to them. And of course, it will be in the end a decision of the government whether they would like to take their recommendations forward, but at least listen to them and decide what extent they want to involve them. I think they deserve a chance to be heard and be involved, because they help a lot in capacity building, and they could foster synergies and help to avoid duplication efforts and overlaps. And we are all in this together. So I think a country cannot really solve this problem alone. So we are all interdependent, and you are as strong as your weakest link. So if in the region you have a country which is really weak in terms of cybersecurity, it affects the neighboring countries as well. So you have to be open to this and involve those who have expertise and and work together collaboratively, and not in a competitive way. But yeah, so that would be my personal opinion on that.
Thank you, Eva. I agree. I perfectly agree. And I have seen there are in some instances also bilateral kind of collaborations between two governments, for instance, and that can be either north-south, but also south-south. So those are other models as well that in many cases can work, and different than government entities can share experiences and build their own capacity while they are working together. So also the bilateral aspect, actually, I think it's important. My final question, if there aren't other questions from the public, is then on your final recommendation on then the review of the programs, right? That after the campaign has been done, has been conducted, you recommend then to try to review, to measure the effectiveness of the cyber awareness campaign. How would you recommend to do that? Because the CMM, as you described, has got a dimension on cyber awareness. So would you recommend to use the dimension on the CMM, or would you need to develop specific metrics or indicators to measure the effectiveness? How would you go about that?
Oh, that's a very good question. Of course, the country is always welcome to use the CMM as a basis, but the country is also very welcome to, when it comes to metrics and surveys, to come up with their own version. And when it comes to assessing the effectiveness of awareness raising campaigns, and this is where they could ask the support of international stakeholders, for instance, who have maybe experience already in other countries, and they could provide some advice on how to conduct these metrics and surveys. So it could be a long-term process, but it's very effective. And with the involvement of other stakeholders, with the private sector within the country, I think it would be really good to have and measure to what extent the programs are effective, what's lacking, what needs to be changed or revised or diverted because some social groups are missing or not enough. So I think this is always good to self-check. I was talking on behalf of the country, like to self-check yourself, like what you deliver and services you provide for the country is good enough. And yeah, it's a multi-stakeholder approach that's needed. And yeah, but I don't have an exact plan how to do the metrics, but I think with the involvement with others, stakeholders, international partners, they could really come up with good metrics as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm seeing another question on if there are other approaches other than the cyber maturity model. And yeah, I know that there are, and actually a task force within the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise is exploring this issue. So they're actually working on trying to identify the different methodologies to measure capacity. So the cyber maturity model for nations is one of them, but there are others. And actually we have here with us Caroline from the Global Cybersecurity Capacity Center at Oxford, that she is leading that working group at the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise. So maybe she can share with us the other models that are there available for to measure maturity, cyber maturity.
Yeah, thank you, Enrico. Thank you for the question, which came from BK. Yes, so there there's several tools on the globe which do similar things as we do. One is the Global Cybersecurity Index by the ITU. That's, as it said, an index. They also look at several areas, similar areas. A questionnaire sent out to ITU members. And then there's a report, I think, every year. You can find that also on the ITU website and the Civil portal, which was mentioned earlier. And this is complementary. We work very closely with the ITU. Then there's the Cyber Readiness Index by the Potomac Institute. There's also by the e-Governance Academy in Estonia. It's called National Cybersecurity Index. And there is from MITRE a framework to assess national cybersecurity. We are working on this overview document right now. It was by the GFC, what Enrico just mentioned. Yeah, stay tuned via our Twitter account, on the Sybil portal, or via the GFCE, because that will be published, yeah, early next year, and then you will have a better understanding what the different tools are. Thank you.
Thank you, Caro. Yeah, that's I think that's a very interesting initiative, because as we said, there are a number of methodologies, and all these methodologies have been developed through multi-stakeholder participation and people revising, reviewing them. So lots of work has been put there, and yeah, you might use also these different methodologies also based on your specific needs. So I see that we are now at 1 hour, and I don't see any other additional question on this topic, but I believe it was a very interesting one, and we shared a lots of information, and you can keep in touch both with me or with Eva on this topic. Eva, when will you publish then the paper? Because it was submitted to a conference. Is it already published, publicly available?
Yes, the paper was submitted and accepted by the CyberEdu conference call, and I just got the email this week that it will be published this December. So if all goes well in December, this paper will be published and available. So thank you very much for everyone's time and participation, and we are very happy that you were here.
Thank you. And as I see, Caroline also placed the link to the different assessments, so you can find actually the various tools at that link. And now I would give the floor back to Oscar for maybe these closing remarks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Eva and Enrico, for sharing all the information. And no, I have no further questions or comments. So again, I would like to thank you, and also our audience for joining us today. And that's what I have. So thank you so much, and I think that it is time to close the session. Thank you, Enrico and Eva, and Caroline as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.